chum salmon. Thumb and chum rhyme. Your forefinger is going to be your sockeye salmon, because if you were to sock someone in the eye, you would do it with that finger. And that is the salmon that you just tried, the smoked sockeye salmon, one of the best smoking salmons. And then your middle finger is your king salmon, because it is the largest finger and tallest finger on your hand. Your ring finger is going to be your silver salmon, because you might at some point in life have a silver ring on it. And your pinky finger is going to be your pink salmon, because, well, pinky and pink sound almost exactly the same. So thumb is chum, forefinger is sockeye, middle finger is king, ring finger is silver. That's the one that's also known as coho, if you're wondering where coho is. Coho and silver is the same. That's what you'll be trying over at Orca Point Lodge when we get there. And pinky is pink salmon. So just kind of a nifty way to remember the 5 types of salmon. Like I said, you can go home and look super cool to your friends like, look what I know. That's what I learned in Alaska. So pretty neat, the 5 types of salmon. Now I did want to talk about a couple other things with these whales. Some good questions that I had and some things that you folks saw. One of them has to do with the tails of the whales. So when these animals lifted up their tails out of the water to dive, if we're at the right angle, meaning you saw the back side of the tail, meaning it was diving away from us, you might have noticed that some were very black and maybe some had a little bit of white on them. Every single humpback whale has an entirely unique pattern on the back of its tail. Every single whale. So it's just like your fingerprint. It's yours and yours only. Nobody else has the exact same fingerprint as you. Well, same for these whales. Now this is really neat for a few reasons, because it's how we tell different individuals apart from one another. Now it's cool because if you identify a whale on a trip today, you can be like, oh look, I saw Bob or Jerry or whoever, and then 10 years later you come out on another whale watch, you're like, oh, it's my old friend, I saw him 10 years ago, he's still alive. Just kind of a cool concept. But what's really amazing about it is that it lets us know a lot of information about the species as a whole, in general. So people ask questions like, how old did these animals get? When did they start breeding? How many babies do they have? And those are questions that we wouldn't be able to answer if we couldn't track different individuals. Because then we see these individuals year after year after year, we can track, oh look, she's had another baby, or oh look, she's lived another year. Let's add that on to the lifespan of these animals. So that's really cool. I'll give you an example of it. There's a whale named Salt. She's over on the East Coast. Now, the reason she's called Salt is because there was a fisherman out there one day. He saw a whale that had white scarring on the back of her dorsal fin. It looked like someone had sprinkled salt on her. He said, oh, I'm going to call that whale Salt. And thus began the identification of humpback whales. She was the first one identified and cataloged over there in the New England area. They started identifying and taking pictures of the tails or flukes of the whale. The second one was named Pepper. I just think that's funny, Salt and Pepper, the first 2 whales out there. But needless to say, so Salt has been seen pretty much every year since. She has had 13 babies.
Wow.
And she's at least in her 40s or 50s, because she was already mature when he started this identification process. So we don't know her exact age, but like I said, at least 40s or 50s, because it's already been 40 years or so since that identification process, and she was already mature at that point. She's had 13 babies. She just had her last baby in 2014 last year. So she's still successfully reproducing and still having babies. She's still healthy. That's really cool. That tells us these animals are clearly a long-lived species of animal. So the estimation right now, when people ask how long did they get or how old did they get, is about 60 to 80 plus years.
Wow.
They live a pretty long time, but we would have no idea how to answer that question if we haven't been able to track these whales and realize that there are very old whales that are still living, still having babies, etc., etc. Another great example is, well, when did they start giving birth? But we initially thought, oh, maybe 8 to 10 years old. That's what we thought the maturity or sexual maturity age was for a female whale. Well, then on the East Coast, there was a whale named Scylla. She had a baby when she was 4. We're like, oh, well, that's a lot younger than we thought. So now that we're researching that and seeing that these animals are coming back with babies as young as 4 or 5, that has changed. And now we say this age of sexual maturity is really anywhere from about 4 to 7 years old instead of 8 to 10 years old. So it's much younger than we initially thought. Well, like I said, we'd have no idea, because if we didn't know that was Scylla, we wouldn't know she was 4 years old, and we wouldn't know that they have babies so young. So it's just pretty neat, the information that we can learn about these species as a general species by actually being able to tell those individuals apart. Now, I do like to say this as well, because if any of you folks with your fancy cameras out there might have gotten a beautiful picture of one of the backs of the humpback whale's tail with that pattern on it, or lack thereof, it's a black one, those are the hard ones. We do have a poster in the back right side of our boat. It has some of the more commonly seen humpback whales here in southeast Alaska. So if you're interested, you can feel free to pull up your picture, walk back there, and see if you can go ahead and match find out one of the whales that we were looking at today. I had one picture of a blacktail that I know I got, and I was looking for it. I didn't yet find it, and then the whale started breaching, so I kind of gave up at that point. But if you would like to try to decide who we have seen today, feel free to do so. Let me know if you have one. We can agree on a match, and I'll come back on and let you know the ID number if we do happen to ID one. But like I said, it's a neat concept to know who you were actually looking at here and now on this day. So pretty cool. I'll let you continue to enjoy our journey over here towards Colt Island, and like I said, I'll be back on if I think of any other cool facts that you might want to know about humpback whales. But any questions that